action for another day of the week. Welcome to the Monday edition of Chasing That Paper, presented by VegasInsider.com. And oh, baby, coming in a little hot here. 4-0 for yours truly on Friday's show. 3-0 yesterday with my Major League Baseball picks. We're off to a great start here this Major League Baseball season. Up 10 units. I don't think we'll continue at this pace, but hopefully we will continue winning. And we're all over for Major League Baseball today. 6 or 7 different picks and some action on the ice as well. So we're coming in hot, and we're going to try to keep that going here today. We also have to give our co-host today, let's bring him in here, Iain MacMillan. We'll give him a nice pat on the back. 3-0 on the UFC there on Saturday night. Iain, Mr. New York City, how we doing today?
I'm doing well, Joe. You know, over the weekend I got a haircut, and you didn't even mention it. So we went through the rehearsal, and even at the top of the show here, I thought you might mention it. But I got a haircut, and I think I'm looking pretty good. Look good, feel good, back good.
Well, maybe a bit delusional here too. I was gonna say, I say it to you once a week. Would it kill you to put a little product in your hair, run a brush through the hair, perhaps? I mean, you get the haircut, you gotta truly show it off. I
don't need product. Come on.
To each their own. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right, Iain? Okay, so we got a ton of stuff to get to. A bunch of action here across Major League Baseball and NHL. A bit of a recap of what we saw out of the weekend. The Masters, the UFC, NBA playoffs taking shape here. The play-in tournament starts tomorrow. So we'll touch on all that in the second half of the show. But in the first half of the show, you guys know what we're going to do. So let's get right into that action. And we're going to start things off in Major League Baseball. Late afternoon action. First game of the day. We got the White Sox in Minnesota to take on the Twinkies. I'm going to take the White Sox first 5 money line coming in at -120. Dylan Cease on the mound here. It's been a lights out start for Cease. 18 strikeouts and just 2 earned runs and only 3 hits allowed in his 2 starts to open the season. This is a big-time pitcher, ladies and gentlemen. The Twins hitters have been absolutely awful versus Cease. 0 earned runs and 2 hits allowed in 16 innings of work against them last season. In 82 combined at-bats, Twins hitters have a .444 OPS versus Dylan Cease. Not very good at all. And the White Sox, a much hotter offense here. OPS to open the season, 8 versus 26 for Chicago. Give me the White Sox first 5 money line. All right, Iain, Major League Baseball, your pick of the night. What do you got?
Yep, just one pick in Major League Baseball for me tonight, and of course it is an underdog. Yeah.
Oh.
It is the Milwaukee Brewers +125 against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Let's get into it. Brewers have been hot offensively so far this season. Through the first week plus, 4th in OPS heading into today's action at .808. Now they get to take on Zach Gallen of the Diamondbacks, who has had a rough start to his season, to say the least. He has a .759 ERA through his first 2 starts. And that might not just be a blip in the radar, because in spring training he was absolutely awful too, with an .827 ERA. A bit strange to see from a guy who pitched extremely well last season, but I'm going to continue to fade him, especially with Milwaukee, who not only are they starting Wade Miley tonight, who hasn't allowed an earned run so far this season, but also they can turn to their bullpen, which has been the best bullpen in the majors through the first week, sporting a bullpen ERA of .84. Love this spot. I'm shocked that the Brewers are actually underdogs in this spot. I'll take them +125 against the D-backs.
The Brew Crew. Yeah, I kind of like them on the first 5 in that one. Okay, moving on here. One of our favorites here, chasing that paper, Nick Pivetta is on the bump tonight for the Red Sox. They're in Tampa Bay to take on the Rays. We're going to play a prop on Pivetta, take him to have over 2.5 earned runs. That one's coming in at -110. So, of course, we know Tampa Bay is Major League Baseball's top offense here so far this season. Whatever metric you want to look at, their first in runs scored, OPS, and WRC+. Tampa Bay absolutely obliterated Pivetta in 2022. He had 4 starts against them. He posted a .686 ERA 11 walks, 16 strikeouts in those games. This guy's got some serious control issues. Tampa won't be doing him any favors in this one. Very disciplined at the plate. The Rays are the league's lowest strikeout percentage and 9th highest walk percentage. They're going to make this guy work. They're going to get a lot of traffic on the bases. Pivetta over 2.5 earned runs. All right, Ian, let's hop over to the ice. What are we looking at first?
Yeah, we'll go back-to-back underdogs here. I gave you an underdog in baseball. Let's go with an underdog on the ice. I'll take my Toronto Maple Leafs plus 125 against the Florida Panthers here. I think this week specifically is going to be a great few games to fade the must-win narrative. You're gonna see people out there in the Twitter sphere betting on teams in the NHL because, oh, this is a must-win. Oh, this is a big one for them. Can't lose this one. I like to fade that narrative because, of course, the Panthers are still trying to fight for the playoff lives. The Leafs can't move up or down in the standings. They're completely locked in. But actually, I think that makes them a good bet here, plus 125, especially with how they've been playing lately. First in the NHL in expected goals percentage over their last 10 games with an expected goal differential of plus 1.62 per 60 minutes of play. And they should be able to take advantage of a Panthers offense that has been abysmal over this same stretch of games. 27th in expected goals against, 27th in high danger scoring chances allowed. I'll take the Leafs as an underdog in this spot, plus 125.
Right back to the diamond. Very sexy looking game in New York with the Padres in time to take on the Mets. And we're going to fade Max Scherzer, I guess, here. Take the Padres over on their first 5 team total of 1.5. Coming in at minus 120, so a very uninspiring start for Max Scherzer. The 38-year-old may be showing signs of slowing down, or at least not being a Cy Young caliber pitcher anymore. 8 combined home runs and walks allowed so far this season. Just 8 total strikeouts in his 2 starts. The Padres absolutely raking versus right-handed pitching to start the season. 6th in OPS. Maybe due for some more luck at the plate. 27th in batting average and balls in play coming into today. And San Diego has absolutely smacked the living shit out of Max Scherzer the past couple seasons. A bit surprising, but of course we saw in the playoffs he allowed 7 earned runs against them in a game. Then you go back to 2021, he had games of 5 earned runs, 4 earned runs, and 7 earned runs against the San Diego Padres. I'll take them to get at least 2 in the first 5 innings. All right, we are back to the ice. Ian, what do we got?
Yeah, I got my favorite total bet of the night here. It is another important game, pivotal game for both teams. It is the Calgary Flames against the Nashville Predators, and I will take the under 5.5 at minus 105 odds because the Predators have been an under-better's dream lately, averaging only 1.97 goals per 60 minutes of play over their last 10 games. That's the second lowest mark in the NHL over that stretch, and they're also not allowing a ton of goals. In fact, if you look at their combined average goals over their last 10 games, just 4.34. That's well under the set total for tonight at 5.5. And a big reason why is because Juuse Saros has been strong in net for them, playing some of the best hockey he's played all season. 921 save percentage in the month of March, 933 save percentage in 4 starts so far in April. And of course, the Calgary Flames, as they've always been all season, a very solid defensive team, 7th in expected goals against per 60 minutes over those last 10 games. So I'll take the under 5.5 between the Predators and the Flames.
Right, back to the diamond once again, and of course it is the game that everybody is talking about, the Anthony Rendon revenge game with the Nationals in Los Angeles to take on the Angels here, so you got to get some sort of action in on this one. The first 5 total, kind of high, 5.5. Guess what? It's not high enough, motherfuckers. Boom! Give me the over on this one. So it's Patrick Corbin Day, baby. You got to find some way to fade this guy. He's picking up where he left off last season with 8 earned runs and 20 total base runners allowed in 2 starts. On the road last season, he had a 7.75 ERA. Jose Suarez gets the ball here for the Angels. He was an absolute disaster in his debut. A rough spring carried over to that season opening start, where he gave up a lot of hard contact, leading to 6 earned runs and just 4.1 innings of work. And both of these guys are lefties, and both teams are hitting lefties pretty good. Los Angeles, first overall in OPS versus left-handed pitching. The Nationals, a respectable 12th Give me over 5.5 in the first 5 innings between the Nats and the Angels. All right, Ian, back to the ice. Your final pick here. What do we got?
Yeah, I gave you an underdog on the ice. I gave you a total bet on the ice. Now let's bet on a favorite. In fact, we're going to take them on the puck line. I'll take the Seattle Kraken -1.5 at +105 against the Arizona Coyotes. I've been trying to fade this Coyotes team for the entire NHL season. It has rarely worked, unfortunately, despite them being one of the worst teams in the NHL. But in the last week of the regular season, I don't have many opportunities left, so let's try to do it one more time here. Going against the Coyotes, especially because we're betting on a Kraken team that has been playing extremely well in their own end. In fact, they're first in expected goals against per 60 minutes over their last 10 games, and now they get to take on a Coyotes team that has had terrible goaltending. It's not confirmed yet who will be in net for them, but it doesn't matter who because their team save percentage is dead last in the NHL over their last 10 games with a save percentage of 85.2%. That's not good. And that reflects in their goal differential over that stretch, -2.06. They're truly trying their very hardest to get the top overall pick in the NHL draft. So I'll take the Seattle Kraken -1.5 on the puck line at +105.
The Crackheads. All right, final pick of the show, and everything lines up perfectly for this one. Give me the Dodgers first 5 money line -145. They're in San Francisco taking on the Giants here. Julio Urias on the mound here for LA, and he absolutely owned the Giants in 2022. Had 5 starts against them, 30 total innings of work. He had a .90 ERA, 33 strikeouts to 3 walks. 128 combined at bats against him. San Francisco hitters have a .593 OPS. That absolutely stinks. Logan Webb on the bump here for San Francisco, and Dodgers hitters absolutely owned him in 2022. Rough start to the season for him, by the way. 4 earned runs in each of his starts. Last season versus LA, 5 starts, a .557 ERA. Betts, Freeman, and Muncy have all crushed him in their careers. And check out the lefty-righty hitting splits. Webb is the righty. LA is 3rd in OPS versus right-handed pitching this season. Urias is the lefty. San Francisco, dead last in OPS versus left-handed pitching. Give me the Dodgers first 5 -145. Yeah, baby. All right, see a lot of people there watching live. A lot of people will be watching the replay as well later. Guys, you know the drill. See it right down there, that like button. Give that a little click, and the subscribe button as well. Lets us know that you like and enjoy the show. If you have any bets that you like for tonight, drop them in the live chat right now or hit up the comments section. Let us know what you like tonight or in the NBA playoffs, which we're going to be getting into here momentarily, along with recapping all the action from the weekend. So if you're looking to place some bets here, guys, you should be placing those bets with the king of sportsbooks, BetMGM. Let me tell you a little bit about them. Sign up with BetMGM using the promo code VIBONUS. You get a first bet offer up to $1,000 paid back in bonus bets. If you don't win, that's VIBONUS, all one word, no spaces, for a first bet offer of $1,000 paid back in bonus bets. If you don't win, just use that code VIBONUS. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. You must be 21 years or older to wager. Offers for new customers only. BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. Yeah, baby.
Oh, yeah.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. All right, so my God, what a weekend in sports that we saw. Not so much the NBA, unless you're into players fighting on the bench, which I guess is kind of entertaining. But first things first here, Ian, let's unpack a little bit what we saw at the Masters. Of course, Brooks Koepka melted. Jon Rahm goes on to win. He got off to a pretty rough start to the tournament, but he obviously bounced back pretty good. So any big takeaways for you, betting or otherwise, from the 2023 Masters?
Yeah, a couple of them. Number one, and this is something that I've been echoing for the past probably month and a half, 2 months, and it kind of got proved true again at the Masters, is that every elevated event / major tournament, you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't bet on Scottie Scheffler and or Jon Rahm. Because Scheffler, I know, finished a little bit further down the leaderboard, but if you look at strokes gained tee to green, Jon Rahm first, plus 3.56. Scheffler second, plus 3.21. And then the next closest was Cantlay, all the way down to 2.78. Jon Rahm and Scottie Scheffler are head and shoulders above the rest of the PGA Tour right now, and it's not even close. If it wasn't for Scheffler's disastrous putting in the first 2 rounds, he would have been right there on Sunday. It would have came down to Scheffler and Rahm at the very end. So anyone who's into golf betting, I'd recommend every time you see Jon Rahm and Scottie Scheffler in an event, bet on at least one of them, because there's a pretty good chance one of them is going to win. And I don't think odds makers have adjusted to that fact yet. I think they should be like 5-1 to win every tournament. They still hover around 7-1, 8-1. Rory McIlroy is always in that mix on the odds list. It makes no sense. Missed the cut at the Masters this year, which is, for a guy of his talent, to be missing the cut at the Masters is atrocious. It's not a very large field. Less than half get cut. It's a lot of old guys who won the Masters 30 years ago and a handful of amateurs. Rory McIlroy, an absolute disgraceful performance. Then a couple impressive performances. Lefty Phil, who I tried to fade every which way, finished T2. Sam Bennett, the top amateur, finished like 14th or 16th, something like that. And Brooks Koepka, I don't know if I wouldn't actually call it a choke, because even though he shot, I think it was 3 over in the final round, the course was playing hard that day. He had a couple bad chips that cost him, but I don't think it was an actual like psychological meltdown. I think Jon Rahm went out and won it more than Brooks Koepka lost it, I would say. So good to see Brooks Koepka back in the mix at majors. Live guys did better than I expected. Something to keep in mind at the next majors coming up. I actually think Brooks' game fits better at other majors than it does the Masters. So he might be worth a bet. We'll see what the odds say for the upcoming majors. But yeah, lots to take away. But the number one big thing is that it's still Jon Rahm, Scottie Scheffler, a wide gap, and then everyone else.
Yeah, entertainment tournament as far as storylines were concerned, at least. Okay, more big news out of the weekend. It was UFC 287 in Miami. One hell of a main event. Israel Adesanya ends up with the second round knockout over Alex Pereira. And I got to tell you what he needed to overcome to get that knockout leading up to the fight and during the fight itself. Probably one of the more impressive things I've ever seen in the UFC. First of all, he was in a 0-3 hole versus the guy. Of course, he lost to him twice in kickboxing. He got knocked out in one of those fights. He got knocked out in their first fight in the UFC, and it was a real kind of a fork in the road type of a situation for Adesanya, because if he would have lost that fight, what would have been next for him? You know, he might not have had anywhere to go, and wouldn't have been it for his UFC career by any means whatsoever. But it was just incredibly impressive, you know, and the sequence that led to the knockout, too, was absolutely amazing. It looked like Pereira was going in for the kill. He had him get up against the cage, trying to land those body shots. And I guess Adesanya just completely baited him. Knocked him right out cold. Now, that was a very similar sequence to in the first fight, in the first round. Adesanya rattled him quite badly at the end of the first round in that one. So he kind of went back to the well on that type of strategy. And it led to a victory. So one thing afterwards, some real prisoner of the moment stuff with UFC fans, people shouting out and tweeting out, the best middleweight of all time, the best middleweight ever. Pump the brakes a little bit here, guys. Have you forgot about a guy named Anderson Silva? A lot of people, I don't consider Anderson Silva the best of all time, but many do. So pump the brakes on that. You know, he can absolutely get there. He's still in his early 30s, but he's not the best middleweight of all time. So calm down a little bit about that. So what's next for Adesanya here? There's no clear-cut contender here, no clear-cut person who's deserving of the next title shot, and that's because of his greatness in this division. He's taken out all the top guys in the division, so what can you make a case for? Robert Whittaker, maybe? He's beaten him twice already. The second fight was close. You want to come in with that debate? I would maybe say set up a fight between Whittaker and Costa. They were supposed to fight earlier this year. That fell apart. You can make that fight and say that's for the number one contender. This guy, Dricus Duplessis, ranked number 6 in the middleweight division right now. He might get put on a fast track to a title shot. I still do think he needs one more win. But ultimately, I think this all leads up to Adesanya taking a nice long break. This has been one of the more active champions over the past couple of years. So don't be shocked if he doesn't fight again here in 2023. Ian, your thoughts on Adesanya and the event as a whole, UFC 287 over the weekend?
Yeah, I only caught the main event, unfortunately. I went to a showing of Phantom of the Opera. It is the final week that Phantom of the Opera is on Broadway, Joe. No big news about that. So,
who gives a shit? Who cares?
I did catch the main event, though. I got home in time for the main event. Talk about just an all-time emotional win for a fighter. A guy who, Pereira was this guy's demon with the amount of times that he beat him, and was really, Pereira was on his way to winning again. And then to get that knockout by Adesanya, that's got to be one of the most emotional wins in UFC history. So good for Adesanya. I do think the next guy that he's going to fight is how do you pronounce his name? Duplessis? The South African guy?
Yeah, Duplessis, yeah. A lot of people don't like him because he claims like he's the real African fighter, and a lot of people take exception to that. Usman had a real problem with it, to the point that Usman said he wanted to move up to 185 to fight him. Now, Adesanya indirectly called him out in the press conference. He wouldn't say his name as a bit of a way to insult him, I think. But at number 6, coming off a win versus Jerry Cannonier, do you get that fight?
No, maybe. I think Adesanya rests and takes some time off. This guy gets one more big win, and then you set up the title fight maybe early next year.
Yeah, I could see the Duplessis guy taking on Calvin Gastelum. Maybe was coming off a big win as well. He has a bit of a name, maybe like a fight night main event type of fight, and then that could maybe earn him a title shot in a division that doesn't really have a whole lot of contenders. You want Marvin Vettori fighting for the title again anytime soon? I don't think so. More big news out of that event. Jorge Masvidal, his final fight in the UFC, he ended up retiring. Not going to totally slam the guy on his way out the door, but it was kind of like he showed up to survive, not to fight. He wasn't very impressive at all. I thought the UFC commentary team, I thought they did him a lot of favors in that fight. They were talking about the fight like it was close. It wasn't close at all. But hey, you got to give Masvidal a pat on the back. He was, I know they call him Journeyman George as a bit of an insult, but that kind of was the case up until a certain point of his career. He wasn't always this megastar for the majority of his career. In the UFC, he wasn't this megastar that he was made out to be. But of course, he had that perfect storm. Darren Till, maybe the best highlight ever versus Ben Askren, and the Nate Diaz win. That kind of catapulted him to becoming a big star. He made a lot of money. A guy that came from the Kimbo Slice backyard fighting in Miami. So it's kind of a good story overall, but I don't think anyone was surprised to see him go out like he did. Ian, your thoughts on the Masvidal retirement? Simply time after 4 straight lopsided losses?
Yeah, it's time, and you said it, Joe. This is a guy who was a journeyman in mixed martial arts. Nobody really knew or cared about him. He learned how to market himself, and then a couple big finishes certainly helped. Good for him. I saw Burns accuse him of cheating and putting lotion on before the fight, which is kind of funny. But yeah, it's time for him to retire. He was never going to win a belt. He was never good enough to win a belt. But good career, made a ton of money, and beloved in Miami, I hear. So, see ya.
Goodbye, Jorge Masvidal. Okay, more news out of the weekend. The NBA playoffs have taken shape here. Of course, we have the play-ins tournament that we'll get into starting tomorrow. Kind of like both underdogs at the current number here for tomorrow's games. But let's take a look at the NBA futures odds board here. A lot of parity this year. There's no clear cuts. I always point to that 4-year stretch where you knew going into the season you were going to get the Warriors versus the Cavs in the finals. 4 straight years you would get the Warriors versus the Cavs in the final. It was absolutely brutal. Not this year, though. We have the Bucks coming in as the favorite, plus 275. I usually don't like betting the favorite in these markets, so I don't really see a whole lot of value there. Followed by the Eastern Conference winner last year, the Celtics. The Suns at 5-1. You know, a lot of the stuff about the Lakers who are there at 16-1. It's like, well, do you really trust LeBron and Anthony Davis to stay healthy? You can say the exact same thing about Kevin Durant, and they're at 5-1. So I don't know about that. 76ers, some people might say, oh, 9-1, that's not bad. Do you trust James Harden in a big spot? Do you trust Doc Rivers in a big spot? Absolutely not. The Nuggets, hey, I don't like the way that they played over the final month of the season. I won't be betting on them. The Warriors, yeah, you can poke some holes in them, but this team's been known for taking the regular season off the past couple seasons. And here they are. They took the regular. They sucked on the road this year. 10-1. They came in as the favorite this year. Yeah, I don't mind that at all. I picked the Warriors to represent the Western Conference, and I'm going to stick with that pick. I'm going to take the Bucks over the Warriors in the finals. That was my pick to start the season. I'm not going to go away from that now. I think the Grizzlies are a team there at 16-1 that can maybe make a little bit of noise. I don't know. They got a bit of experience last year. They got that big chip on their shoulder. The Clippers, I don't think so. Paul George just got the alert on the phone. It looks like he's going to miss the opening round series versus Phoenix. And then I don't know. A lot of people are discounting the Kings. I think the Kings can beat the Warriors in the opening round. I guess I wouldn't be totally shocked, but I don't expect that to happen. In terms of the extreme long shots here, I'm not giving any of these teams a chance here, really. So, Ian, I know you're not a huge NBA guy by any means, but and I didn't tell you about this before the show, but you got to give us your pick for the NBA Finals right now.
Easy. I already have my bet locked in. I bet on them, I think, a month and a half ago. The New York Knicks. I got them at 150-1, now listed at 100-1. So how about that? I got a little value ticket on the Knicks. I adopted them this year as my favorite team. The city of New York is rallying behind this club. The Eastern Conference is open. They can do it. They got hot. I'll take my Knicks. I have an RJ Barrett.
That was like a $10 bet, like some beer money bet or something.
It was literally $10. Yes, $10 to win $1,500.
I can't give you a hard time about that. Then, yeah, the Knicks, the underdog in their opening round series versus Cleveland. I think I'll get into some of those first round series prices on tomorrow's show. But Cleveland, kind of one of those teams that's not considered a top contender. That's a pretty deep team, so I wouldn't be shocked if you're picking a team a little bit further down the odds board. If I needed to go with the team, I'd probably go with Cleveland in that situation. Donovan Mitchell, a big-time player in the playoffs. So other news out of the NBA over the weekend, yesterday in particular, a lot of players fighting on the sidelines. Rudy Gobert throwing a punch. And Rudy Gobert, he absolutely has himself in the conversation for the biggest moron in the history of the NBA. That's how you want to go into the playoffs? Rudy Gobert, after the Minnesota Timberwolves gave up all of that to get you and what will go down as probably the worst trade of the decade. I need to read this over again. So I knew about it at the time. But Gobert was traded to the Timberwolves in the offseason for Patrick Beverley, Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt, three pretty decent rotation guys right there. The draft rights to Walker Kessler, in addition to 4 first-round picks in a 2026 first-round pick swap. So Gobert is an absolute moron. This guy is an idiot. So it's just not what happened yesterday. Do you remember when COVID, before that, when it was just like starting up and he did that thing when he came out and he coughed all over the microphones joking about it? Then he comes out as the first NBA player with COVID and they shut down the entire league. This guy is a jackass of the highest order. No respect for him whatsoever. So yeah, the Timberwolves come into action and play they play the Lakers tomorrow. A lot of people will probably fade them because of that. I don't think I'll be fading them because of that reason. But yeah, Gobert is idiot. The Timberwolves are going to be kicking themselves. Why? How do you trade all that for Rudy Gobert? The guy's a jackass. Anyhow, some more to talk about here, but let's get into an ad read here for the VegasInsider app. Let me tell you a little bit about it. It gives you all the major sports betting odds at your fingertips, along with picks and expert breakdowns. You can shop for the best odds, find props, features, and plenty more with the app. If you want more Vegas Insider content like our shows, videos, and podcasts, you can find it all on the app in the media section. Download the Vegas Insider app on Apple or Android. Bet better with the Vegas Insider app. Yeah, baby. Woo! Okay, we put up a poll on the Vegas Insider Twitter feed here this morning, asking you guys who you think is going to come out of the Eastern Conference. The Western Conference is a real crapshoot. I think these three teams are obviously the standout teams in the East. And results as expected, Bucks plus 125. Even with the Chris Middleton situation there with the injury, we'll see if he's going to make it back. I'm not quite sure on the latest on that. The Celtics, rock solid. And I would be shocked if the Sixers, they might win a series here, but they melt. They're a great regular season team. They're like the Yankees. They're like the Green Bay Packers. They're good in the regular season. They melt when the games matter most. Okay, so another thing out of the NBA this weekend. On Friday night, it was an absolute banner night in the NBA for star players sitting out. And absolutely, some of these situations, like you see it, you can't be too hard on them at this point of the season. It's like in week 18 of the NFL, you know, if the Kansas City Chiefs have that number one seed locked up, then hey, they're going to be sitting Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and the other top guys. That's kind of how it works. Similar in the NBA, when teams have their playoff positioning solidified, okay, you can give them a pass on that. But what we saw out of the Dallas Mavericks, that was absolutely rock bottom. And it was a complete and total disgrace for a number of reasons. First of all, they were still alive to get in for a play-in spot, but they decided they wanted to tank to have a shot at a top 10 pick. I discussed this last week. Not the top pick, not a top 3, not top 10, a top 10 pick. This is a team with Luka, one of the biggest attractions in all of sports, and they traded all those assets for Kyrie Irving too. And not only that, but check this out. They put out this tweet on the day of the game, and this all smiles for Slovenia night. It was Slovenia night in Dallas. And why do you think they were doing that? Because that's where Luka is from. So they were having a night to celebrate that. This is something that's been on their schedule all season. And they decided to fucking quit that day. And it was a slap in the face to fans because they're saying Kyrie and all these guys are going to sit there. And they said, you know what? Luka's going to play the first quarter. And they announced that he'd be coming out after the first quarter. Now the NBA is doing an investigation into the Mavericks because this is probably the worst instance of tanking that we've ever seen, maybe. You really require an investigation, NBA? You're going to get the FBI on this? CSI? Sherlock fucking Holmes to figure out what was going on with the Dallas Mavericks? I think you should strip them of that pick. I put that out over the weekend on the internet, and some people are saying, Joe, don't be an idiot. Teams are tanking all the time. A lot of the teams that are tanking are teams that suck anyways. The Spurs, the Hornets, who had LaMelo Ball get injured, the Rockets, the Pistons. These teams weren't going to get into the playoffs. They absolutely stink. Anyways, I do think that this is rock bottom for the NBA, this load management, the players sitting out, the teams tanking. Fans are absolutely sick and tired of it. And the annoying thing to me is a lot of the NBA fan now says, well, Joe, it's actually smart. They weren't going to win in the playoffs. They might not have even come out of the play-in. So it's smart to tank to get a top 10 pick. Well, what about putting an entertaining product on the court for your fans? What about entertaining your fans by trying to get into the playoffs, trying to win a play-in game? So yeah, an absolute joke here for the Dallas Mavericks. I hope that there's some sort of punishment. Apparently on Thursday night in Orlando was fan appreciation night, and they rested all their starters. So yeah, it's a slap in the face to fans. The NBA is the most unfan-friendly league that there is. Ian, did you catch this situation with Dallas on Friday night?
Yeah, Joe, we've both kind of been on the same side of this, which is that at the end of the day, sports is not actually about winning a championship. Sports is actually about entertaining fans, and sitting players, whether it's for rest or to try to tank, is just killing the product of the NBA right now. The amount of stories of, kids and families taking these huge trips to go watch their favorite team and favorite players play. They show up, and then an hour before the game, it's announced that the players aren't playing. They're sitting out for rest is disgusting. Not everyone that goes to these games are people who just live in the city that go to 15 games a year anyways. A lot of people who go to these games, it's a whole trip for them, with the main event of their trip going to watch their team play. these people who live in rural areas. And this thing that's happening in the NBA is just absolutely killing the product, leaving a bad taste in the mouths of fans who have to go through that. And it's disgusting. The NHL, there's plenty of teams right now in the NHL who have their playoff spot completely locked up. They're still playing their players. NHL is a little bit different though, since you can't really just ride with 6, 7, 8 guys in a game. You have to kind of ride through your entire lineup anyways. You don't have enough backups to completely sit all your best players. But still, it's becoming a big issue in the NBA more than any other sport.
Yeah, and they might be too far gone. And people are like, well, what can you do about it, Joe? I think if you eliminated all back-to-backs, I think that would be a decent start. But it's tanking has been going on for years, regardless of the league. And it's often like a team setting themselves up in a position so that they're going to suck. Like if you look at the San Antonio Spurs, you would have looked at their roster coming into the season and said, well, they're going to suck. They're going to be one of the worst teams in the league. For the Detroit Pistons, as soon as Cade Cunningham goes down for the season, well, they're going to suck. The Charlotte Hornets with LaMelo Ball, he goes down for the season. Well, they're going to suck. They're setting themselves up to lose, but I wouldn't exactly call that straight up quitting. What Dallas does, they flat out quit.
Yeah.
It was pathetic. The fans should turn their back on them. And the NBA, one thing that they can do is set an example. Strip them of that stupid pick that they weren't tanking for. They were fucking quitting for. It's a disgrace. It's pathetic. Don't play. Oh, my God. I'm sick of talking about this. I do complain about the NBA a lot. The playoffs are going to be awesome. The playoffs are always great, as long as players don't start load managing in the playoffs. One last thing we'll touch on here quickly, Ian. This guy is always in the news. He finally signed with the team. Odell Beckham Jr. signs with the Baltimore Ravens. I hate the coverage on Odell Beckham Jr. because I think he's a good player, but people talk about him like he's a top 5 receiver in the league. Maybe a bit of a ploy by the Ravens to get Lamar back in their good graces, I guess, and maybe get him under contract as well too. Any thoughts on Beckham signing up with Baltimore?
Yeah, I think actually the move might have been even more than just signing OBJ. I think the move was the first step in trying to repair the relationship with Lamar Jackson. You saw the two of them FaceTiming together, and we actually saw the Ravens Super Bowl odds go from 35-1 down to 28-1. So there has been some movement in the market as well. But hey, if you're gonna try to fix the relationship with Lamar Jackson and try to bring him back for another year and convince him to play, a big step in that was getting him a weapon. A guy that he likes, a guy that he's friends with, a guy he can throw the ball to, and OBJ was the best available receiver left on the market. So, smart move by the Ravens. We'll see. Ian MacMillan signed with Ravens. You're correct. I have not signed with the Ravens. I'm expecting a phone call any day, though.
Yeah, I mean, I do knock Lamar quite a bit, but one thing that I've always said to support him, I guess, in this situation is he hasn't really been surrounded by star-studded skill players by any means.
Right.
A pretty good tight end. That's about it. Who's been his best receiver during his time there? I don't know. I guess it will be Odell Beckham, he's a pretty good number 2, I think. He was pretty good with the Rams there. Yeah, I'll give him credit for that, but I don't know. A lot of drama surrounding the team, and you bring in one of the most dramatic players the NFL over the past decade. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes for them. Okay, guys, it is now time for today's Handicapper Heat Check presented by VegasInsider.com, your home for the best expert picks in the business since 1997. MLB profits leader AASA are perfect this baseball season, 11-0 to start the year. Scott Rickenbach 4-0 across all sports yesterday, and Bill Marzano nailed 9 straight NHL winners. Visit VegasInsider.com/picks for today's MLB and NHL top plays. That's your Handicapper Heat Check. Stay hot, betters! All right, Ian, before we let you go, what else do you have going on out there this week that Chasing That Paper viewers can check out?
Yeah, Bacon Bets podcast will come out tomorrow morning, breaking down my picks for the RBC Heritage. Looks like Rory McIlroy just withdrew from that, which is going to cause some controversy because with their new deal with the PGA Tour, they're only allowed to sit out one elevated event, and Rory already sat out the Tournament of Champions. So this will be the second elevated event he's going to sit out. So we'll see some backlash from that, but I'll have Bacon Bets podcast episode break down my betting preview and picks for that. And also later today, I think I'm doing a mock draft with Rob Pizzola, talking about the Falcons NFL draft, because that's coming up. That's like, is that next week? Or I think it's the week after. I think it's 2 weeks away. So NFL draft coming up. It's going to be fun. One of the actual more fun events. It's an underrated event to bet on. I actually really enjoy betting on the NFL draft, so I'm excited for that.
We're going to have a lot of betting coverage for the draft here on Chasing That Paper. Have you zeroed in on your favorite choice for the Atlanta Falcons to grab with their top pick?
There's a lot of different ways you could go with it. I'm forgetting his name, Tyrese. It's the edge rusher from Texas Tech. I'm forgetting his full name right now, but if he falls to us, that's who I want the Falcons to take.
There we go. Tyree Wilson.
Yes. There we go. Or Gonzalez, the corner from Oregon. Anthony Gonzalez.
Yep. There you have it. The Dolphins don't have a first-round pick because they were
that sucks. That always sucks when your team doesn't have a first-round pick.
It takes the heat off because the Dolphins, up until a couple of years ago, they were awful at drafting in the first round. But last year they didn't have one either because they traded it, and now this year they don't have one either. And that team, they got to patch up that offensive line, and I guess they're targeting the running back out of Alabama potentially in the second round. So we'll see. Yeah, we'll have a lot more NFL draft coverage here in the coming weeks. But that does it for the Monday edition of Chasing That Paper. We thank Ian for joining us. We thank producer Tito for producing. We thank you, dear viewer, for checking us out once again here today. Best of luck with your bets tonight, unless, of course, you are fading us. And as always, keep chasing that paper. Yeah!